Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by Emmy Award-winning director of the documentary Black in Space, Breaking the Color Barrier, Lorenz Grant. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be with you.
Lorenz, let's go beyond the mic. You have a quote on your website from Robert Wise. My 3 Ps, passion, patience, perseverance. You have to do this to become a filmmaker. What's your passion?
I think my passion is stories, really good, cool, rich stories. I'm a storyteller. I've loved telling stories since I was a little girl, actually, and I feel lucky to be able to bring stories to light in the documentary realm. And you need a lot of patience and persistence because it's not easy. You've got to do a lot to convince people to talk. Certainly fundraising is always an issue, but and if you want to, compete with the Robert Wises of the world, my gosh, I'm always trying to compete with the giants in filmmaking. I push myself also.
The Smithsonian Channel's Black in Space, Breaking the Color Barrier, attacks the long journey to achieve diversity. Has it happened?
Well, in some respects it has. And what I really was excited about this documentary was kind of trying to put a lot into one documentary. We know so much about 3 huge events of American history, the Civil Rights Movement, the space race, and the Cold War, but I was trying to include all of them in one documentary. All 3 are happening at the same time. And talking to a lot of scholars, it's not really discussed as happening at the same time, or it's somewhat fresh research. So I really thought that I just leaned into that. Like, that was just a dynamic and exciting backdrop to, it's not just, name some names of some Black astronauts, but actually put in the drama, the tension, and the geopolitical space race and texture of, world domination. Who's going to win? Like, of course, the United States against the Soviet Union, and it was a strong back and forth, and I thought it was really challenging and exciting to try and include all of that in this documentary.
Do you think NASA has done enough or too little to achieve diversity?
Well, it's certainly eye of the beholder, to be fair, but I think there certainly were strong efforts. I mean, NASA certainly has stepped up and is very committed to that today. But I also wanted to include, some information on Lyndon B. Johnson. He was a power player back then. He really is kind of the reason we have NASA, if you will. He was an early champion. It was really important for him to get a lot of these sites in the South. He really thought that having diversity and getting rid of all the, poverty out after the World War II would, maybe end the racial climate, and make things better and improve because, NASA had to hire over 250,000 people as part of its space program. We were the best of the best. We were trying to be the best of the best, and we were competing, and so we needed to compete on such a massive scale. So I also thought it was interesting to maybe include that piece of the story, Lyndon Johnson's contribution and what he was bringing to the table and what his vision was. Certainly was parity reached. I mean, my goodness, by the end of the 60s, I think it was still in the single digits of African Americans that were involved in the space race. But I do nod to them and give them their attention, some of the first early engineers, and then really the high stakes race and drama and game to get the first African-American astronauts in space.
The Smithsonian Channel's Black in Space, Breaking the Color Barrier. We're joined by the show's director and producer, Lorenz Grant, Beyond the Mic. Dr. Jeanette Epps was scheduled to go to the International Space Station in 2018, but was removed from the assignment. Was it just NASA shuffling astronauts around, or is there still tensions of sending African Americans into space?
Well, I don't know exactly what's going on, but certainly we just had the first all-women spacewalk. So I think there's certainly room to grow. Thus far, we've had 14 African-American astronauts, 11 men, 3 women. We certainly can have more. At the end of my documentary, I do what I like, a cool kind of montage, kind of an homage to all the African-American astronauts who've come since, but also to show that although that number is incredible and amazing, numbers could grow. We certainly need more parity. And again, these are really incredibly talented individuals. Some of them are, not only are they PhDs in physics, like Guy Bluford, as well as Ron McNair, but, some of them were also orthopedic surgeons, like Dr. Satcher. So, these are the best of America, and we certainly can really replenish that pipeline. The beauty of what ushered in the shuttle era was you could have a lot of diversity in the skies from so many aspects. You didn't need to be a fighter pilot anymore, a jet pilot, or a test pilot. Now you could be a scientist or a doctor. You could bring so many other skills. And so maybe we just need a reminder to the younger generations that, we need all of their young, hungry minds to keep feeding our space program.
What is your dream for NASA, Lorenz?
To keep exploring the great beyond. Talking to the astronauts, they say they were the groundbreakers. They were the first. They did it. So now what's next? What is the next frontier? Man has been obsessed and fascinated by the next frontier since time immemorial. And I think now as a nation, NASA's ready to go that next step. Hopefully we can have a richer pipeline to feed that next step, not just big cities, but, don't forget our rural communities. We are a big nation, and our next generation should have access to participate.
Lorenz Grant, director, producer of Black in Space, Breaking the Color Barrier on the Smithsonian Channel. Time's running out, so it's time for the Rocky Nate. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. No pressure. If you could go on a NASA flight, where would you want to go?
Well, I guess we have to say Mars, right? Because we haven't been there. Although I haven't been anywhere, so I would be happy. I'd be happy with the moon.
When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Storyteller.
Last gift you bought someone?
Jewelry.
What was the hardest decision you had to make for this documentary?
I love the travel, so maybe the hardest decision was coming back from Cuba and Russia. It was so fun to go there.
One thing that people don't know about you?
I'm a published poet.
Very nice. On your hot dog, mustard or ketchup?
Oh, man. Are you kidding? Ketchup.
If you could change one mistake from your life, which would it be?
Less hot dogs? I'm kidding. I don't know. I think it's good to look forward, not regret.
Finish this sentence. I knew I made it when I
got to make documentaries and go to Sundance.
The Smithsonian Channel's Black in Space, Breaking the Color Barrier. We're joined by the director and producer, Lorenz Grant. Great documentary. We can't wait to see it. We want you to go to the Smithsonian Channel and watch it right now.
Awesome. It was great to be on your show. Please tune in and follow us on social media. I'm at Lorenz Grant on Twitter, Lorenz Grant Info on Instagram, hashtag Black in Space.
What's your next project?
I think I'm going to do something contemporary. I'm looking forward to the future, something in tech. So I hope I can be back on your show, tell you more about it.
Lorenz Grant, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
And that, my friends, is Beyond the Mic.